Have you ever landed somewhere new and felt instantly different? I don't know, maybe you felt lighter or sharper or more confident, or maybe you felt strangely off. Well, some people chalk that up to vacation mode, but astrologers have a different explanation. It's called astrocartography, the idea that where you are on Earth changes how your birth chart plays out in your life. And if you've never heard of it, here's the quick version. So your birth chart is a snapshot of where every planet was in the sky at the exact moment and place that you were born. And that chart is usually treated as a fixed one map, one set of meanings, no matter where you go. Astrocartography, though, breaks that assumption. It says that your birth chart doesn't just describe a moment in time, it describes a moment in space too. And if you move to a different location on the globe, the angles between you and the planets shift. And astrocartography is the tool that tracks exactly how. So here's how it actually works. For every planet in your chart, there are 4 possible positions relative to the horizon at any given location. Rising in the east, setting in the west, culminating at the top of the sky, or anchoring at the bottom. As you move around the planet, the specific spots on Earth where a planet holds each of these 4 positions trace out a line. So do that for every planet and you get a world map covered in curving lines, and that's your astrocartography map. And each line marks a location where a particular planet is in astrological terms, especially active in your life specifically. So what do these lines actually mean? Think of each planet as carrying its own flavor. The sun line is about visibility, identity, and confidence, and people report feeling more like themselves and more noticed. The moon line is about emotional comfort and home and instinct. It can feel nurturing or it can feel overly exposed emotionally, depending on the rest of your chart. Venus lines are tied to love and ease. And a lot of people specifically chase Venus lines when they're looking for romance or a more pleasant lifestyle. Mars lines bring drive and friction in equal measure. So it's great for ambition or rougher for patience. Jupiter lines are the ones most associated with luck and growth and opportunity, which is why they show up so often in relocation readings. Saturn lines being structure and responsibility sometimes read as restriction and sometimes as exactly the discipline that a person would need. And the lines from Mercury, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto add their own layers: communication, disruption, dreaminess, transformation. Now, the position matters as much as which planet you're dealing with. So a planet rising or culminating tends to feel more outward and active. You're putting that planet's energy into the world. And a planet sitting or on the bottom tends to feel more internal. You're absorbing that energy rather than projecting it. So a Jupiter line at your rising might feel like external opportunities finding you, while a Jupiter line at your midheaven might feel more like career recognition specifically. A natural question at this point is whether does this actually hold up? Because it's worth being upfront that astrocartography, like astrology generally, isn't something with scientific validation behind it. There's no established mechanism for why your location relative to your birth coordinates would shape your life outcomes. And controlled studies on astrology haven't found predictive accuracy beyond chance. So what people do report consistently, though, is that certain places feel different to live in, and that mapping those feelings onto planetary lines gives them a framework to think about or think through the big decisions. So where to travel, where to move, what kind of chapter of life they might be stepping into. Whether you treat it as a literal prediction or as a structured way to reflect on a decision is really up to you. And if you want to see your own map, you don't need to do any of this math by hand. There's free astrocartography calculators that exist online. You would just enter your birthday, your time, and location, and it generates the full set of planetary lines over a world map. So the birth time does matter a lot here, though, more than your standard horoscope, because the rising and setting lines are especially sensitive to exact timing. So if you don't know your birth time precisely, your east-west lines will be more reliable than your rising and setting ones. So once you have your map, the practical use is usually one of two things. So some people use it to evaluate a move they're already considering, checking what lines run through a city they're thinking about relocating to. And others use it more like a treasure map, scanning the whole globe for their strongest Venus or Jupiter lines and building future travel plans around them. A word of caution before you go making life decisions off this, though, a line running through a location doesn't override everything else about that place. Cost of living, visas, job market, and whether you actually like the culture still matter more than a planetary alignment. And astrocartography works best as one more lens for reflection, not a replacement for the practical side of the decision. That's the basics. This is just the 101. In the next video, I'll walk through how to actually read your own map line by line, starting with the line most people ask about first, their Venus line. And if you want that when it's up, just subscribe and drop the city you're most curious about in the comments.